Good afternoon and good evening to everybody, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you very, very much for spending your afternoon or evening with us in this 13th session of the educational series of Africa in the Moot. We really appreciate you joining for this, and we will shortly hand you over to our very, very esteemed guest who we're very excited to host today. But we also want to thank you for joining us because this is quite a special occasion in that it's the final educational session in the series, and it marks the end officially of the 30th FIS Moot season of Africa in the Moot. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time and maybe don't have a deep understanding of what Africa in the Moot does, we are a not-for-profit organization that supports African university teams to participate in the Willem C. FIS International Commercial Arbitration Moot, which is the largest international commercial arbitration moot in the world. And what we do is we support teams through coaching, through fundraising, through access to resources and trainings, much like this, so that they can best participate not only in the FIS Moot, but also gain exposure to this world of arbitration, and hopefully get exposure to a potential career in that field. And that, of course, brings us very much to the session that we will hear from Diamana Diawara shortly. And alongside our educational objectives is a very important one, and that is a community-based objective, namely that throughout this whole journey of, it's been now 9 months of the FIS Moot journey officially, if you start counting from the date that the Moot problem is released, we hope to foster a connection and a very strong network amongst all of our teams, not only the teams themselves, but also tapping into those excellent networks and friendships in the overall world of the Moot and international arbitration generally. And I say that this is, it's a bit of, said with sadness of it, because we've come to the end of this very, long but exciting and illuminating road. And I'm very, very pleased to announce, for those of you who didn't know already, we have a lot of our team members on the call as well, of course. But we, as Africa in the Moot and the team members that participated, broke records for the highest representation of sub-Saharan African teams in the FIS Moot history. So that's in the 30-year history. And we're very, very proud of that. And we look very much forward to what will be done in coming seasons. And now with that, I hand over to my dear colleague in the Educational Committee of Africa in the Moot to introduce you and take you through this excellent session with Diamana. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you very much, Erin. Good evening and good afternoon to the many of us in the room. My name is Assunta Ndami. I am also a member of the Educational Program Committee, as Erin mentioned, and this is a very special session for us, being not only the last, but also just coming to the full fruition of what we've been doing for several months. So my absolute pleasure today is to introduce the speaker, Diamana Diawara, and allow me to just set the stage for this amazing practitioner and lady who I have come to know not just as a mentor, but as a friend. So to start us off, just by letting you know who Diamana is, she currently is the director for the Dispute Resolution Services in Africa for the International Chamber of Commerce, that's the ICC. She took on this role in January of 2021 after leading within the ICC for 5 years. And she acted as the case management team lead of the Secretariat of the ICC, overseeing disputes involving the Middle East, Africa, and Francophone Europe. Now, currently, as Regional Director for Africa, Diamana has focused on strengthening the dispute resolution infrastructure on the African continent, which is particularly exciting for all of us. Now, she has done this by offering capacity building opportunities to practitioners in this region, by leading initiatives that are aimed at increasing the participation of African practitioners in the international arbitration scene. So as Erin has mentioned, this being an initiative, Africa in the Moot, that ensures African practitioners are seen more and heard of more in the international arbitration scene, you can see that it deeply mirrors what Diamana has set out to do. Now, prior to joining the ICC, Diamana trained in the arbitration department of the Paris office in Dentons, and she also acts as a lecturer in domestic and international arbitration in the Montpellier University. She is also a member of several professional networks. In particular, she's the head of the ICC Young Arbitrators and ADR Forum, that's called YAF, that is specific to the Africa chapter. She is a member of the board, the Paris Arbitration Week, that's PAW, and a member of OHADA Group, a former member of the IBA AB 40 Steering Committee, and a founding member of Africa AB. She does hold a master's in international business law from Paris A and Paris Nanterre University, and is a graduate from the LLM program of Golden Gate University, San Francisco in California. Now, without further ado, please help me in welcoming through, of course, the chat section with lots of cheers and joy, Diamana Diawara. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, my dear Assunta, my dear friend, and thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. Good afternoon and good evening to all of you, depending on where you are connecting from in Africa. I'm absolutely delighted to be part of this session. And when Assunta finally managed to get me to read the email that she sent me to join you guys, my first instinct was, oh yes, 100 times I will be there and I will do this session, simply because, you know, speaking to the youth, to student is definitely for me the most important thing that I can do in the midst of all of the activities I do to try and promote arbitration in the continent and for the continent. So what I would propose to do as a little bit of a structure for our conversation this afternoon is just to give you a little bit of my experience, personal experience. And the reason for that, you will understand soon, is that I am very linked to the Wismut and I owe a lot to the Wismut. So I thought it would be interesting for me to share my path with you guys, and then maybe enter into some of the tips that I would, or recommendation that I would have for you guys moving forward in your student careers, but also, of course, as professionals, as you build your profiles for dispute resolution practitioners. Assunta, is that okay for you as a structure? Let's start with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I promise I won't bore you too much. I will try. So it's a little bit of a shame that I cannot see most of you. I'm sure there are plenty of reasons why your cameras are not on, but I like to see faces with the names of the people that I meet, especially young people, because I want to be able, next time I come across you, to say, oh yes, I remember you from that conversation. So please don't be shy. If you are in a position to open your cameras, and I know sometimes bandwidth doesn't allow it, do it and allow me to see your faces. I will love to actually physically meet you, even if only through the screen. Hi, cool. That's really nice to see some of you show up on the screen. Hello, hello, hello. Nice. So hello, I can see some more faces showing up on this screen. Excellent. Now, why did I want to talk to you about my own personal journey before I became, I would say, an arbitration practitioner? Because I am practicing exclusively arbitration for over a decade now. As I told you, that is because I have a very strong link with the Wismut that actually set me off in this practice. And this is how it happened. I was trained in French universities and in the US. And during my master's degree in Paris, I was in a university that had never participated in the Wismut before, and that was Paris Nanterre University, with a couple of friends who were in France from exchange programs from the US and who had known and heard about the Wismut, because there is a very big culture of mooting in US law schools generally. They proposed that we start a team for that competition. And I was immediately attracted to that for two reasons. I had that far in my student curriculum being very much attracted to international private law, which was really what had brought me to international business initially. And I had with one professor that you might know, a French professor, Pierre Maillet, a course in arbitration, which of course stayed with me and resonated. And at the time we were talking about arbitration, pure arbitration law. It was not particularly investment arbitration or anything of the sort. There was actually a third element, and that is that I had specialized in commercial law and had worked on the Vienna Convention. So all of this together, the Wismut made total sense for us. And so we started. An interesting element is that in that team of 6 at the time, 3 of us were from Africa or from African descent, and we realized quite quickly that there were not that many Africans involved in the Wismut. And again, this is a long time ago, right? And I have to stop here and commend the work that Africa in the Moot does. I was delighted that the initiative was recognized at the Global Arbitration Review Awards this year. Congratulations again, because I think this is typically the type of initiatives that are changing the rules of the game for practitioners and for young people in Africa wanting to be part of this very exciting and very also economically interesting practice of arbitration, and we'll come to that a bit later. So we decide to start this Wismut competition, have no clue, zero about how you do this, have no coaching, and of course, no money. For those of you who know the French school system, university is absolutely not as expensive as it would be in the US or in the UK. However, it also means that there's no budget in French schools. So we started literally doing bake sales in order to pay for, and I'm not talking about being in high school. We were master degree holders doing bake sales in the university in order to pay for the registration fees at the Wismut and pay for our flights and accommodation in Vienna. Of course, then we did also manage to raise some sponsorship, but just to give you a sense of the fact that whatever you have gone through, I do understand, and I've been there, even though I participated in the Moot from the perspective of a Western university. So we get to Vienna, again, very quickly realized looking around that Africa is definitely not on the map of the Wismut. But little did we know at the time that that was true in the past and would continue to be true for at least a decade before Africa in the Moot came around. And that's quite interesting, because what you realize after a few years of doing not just the Wismut, but of being in the international arbitration circles, is that basically anyone who is in the dispute resolution arena has some sort of ties with this. And I'm not exaggerating, that's the truth. And then you also understand that by not being part of that circle, you cannot, literally cannot, or actually it's going to be even more difficult for you to have a seat at the table and be part of this practice that we're talking about. So, that team of ours gets into this room, this beautiful room in Vienna. And we had that moment that I'm sure you lived through, that I think is one of the most beautiful moments in the opening ceremony, where they invite all of the teams to stand up. And you see students sitting down one after the others, depending on which ones are called to stay up, depending on, how much how hard you've worked, how much difficult it was for you to get there. And we were among the last ones to stand. Again, that for us, that alone was a recognition of our journey beyond all of the, the drafting and the many, many hours on top of school studying that we had done to put a memo together, to get the money to get to Vienna, to then, do some pre-moots with teams who clearly didn't think we were worth being competing against, because at the time we were absolutely new to that business of the Moot. But we went through the process, right? And when you get into that room and you leave that moment where everyone claps for you, there is a sense of pride. There is a sense of, yes, you know, I've done it, I'm here, and I'm part of it. And for that, again, I will repeat it many times, but I am so grateful to Africa in the Mood for allowing this for you guys. I think this is incredible. And I think that it can definitely be door openers for many, many of you. And I do believe in that. And let me tell you why, coming back to my own journey. Once I leave that first experience in the Moot, what happens? What happens is that I've been doing, you know, for over 6 months, drafting, submitting those drafts to certain people in law schools, in law firms to review them, give us comments. I have been pleading, I've been coached, and I've been heard by people in the business. And then you go back home and you're like, okay, what's next? Well, you know what? I've just finished my degree. I'm going to apply for internships in different places. And you go back through that list and you contact people. And because you were in the Viz, they know that some of them simply remember you. And some of them are thinking, well, you know what, if she's a former Muti, there's something there. At least she went through the whole process. If you get to Vienna, it means you've done all of this memo, all of this hard work that any lawyer does for any dispute they have to go through, right? So it means at least you can show commitment to a project like that. And that has value in the professional market. That is a marker that should not be downplayed or underestimated by yourselves first and by those to whom you present it. And I think it's very important to bear that in mind. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. That's how I felt it. And that's what the future told me. Because the truth was that every time I was interviewing for a position of an intern, my participation in the Moot was always a plus. That was always something that the person across the table would highlight as, oh, wow, it's wonderful that you've done this. We know how hard it is for students, especially because we know you do it while you are studying for your degrees. And it shows, you know, commitment, rigorousness. It shows also, you know, a form of not just motivation, but also being, oh, sorry. Something just happened. I think somebody has shared their screen. That would be Cotelo. Okay, while we wait for that to go back to a normal view. Yeah, I was saying when you interview, do put forward that as an experience, because it is an experience. It is an actual experience. This is, we heard Erin tell us 9 months. First of all, 9 months is the time you need to grow a human, believe me. Not easy. And also those 9 months, you've put yourself in the shoes of counsel for both sides. You've pled a case with under laws that are not your primary legal system. You've also been arguing under convention, doing research, and all of that shows the quality of a lawyer. And I think that just for that, you should be comfortable putting that forward. And for example, I will tell you very honestly, after that, when I was coaching students in the Moot, which I did for a number of years in French universities, I would, when they were asked to submit a writing sample, for example, at an interview, I would tell them, well, and they would tell me, I don't really know what I can pick. I was like, well, you have this memo. Granted, you haven't drafted it alone, but you've drafted sections, and that is a valid writing sample you can put forward. And this is the kind of things you might not think of. So I'm putting it out there. Bear that in mind. This is something you have produced. Yes, with your colleagues, but it's still the result of your work as an individual. And it is speaking to the work that you're capable of doing. So after the Moot, again, I was able to intern in some of the top law firms here in Paris. I was also, again, I had a network, and a network not just of professionals that were able to give me opportunities, and that bear it in mind as well, a network of my peers. And these people up to date are people I still work with in different capacities, in different places. Some are in law firms, some are in-house counsels, some are doing something completely different. But this whole network is something that you should definitely, value, cherish, and continue to give attention to, because these are the people that you will be working with when you start practicing, or even later on in your career, you will cross them somewhere and you'll be like, oh, you're from this edition of the Moot. Well, I did the same. And suddenly, a conversation happens and suddenly business happens, because that's literally how business happens, even though it's still, I'm always surprised at the kind of things that make business come somebody's way, but that is one of them. I can tell you that. So, to finish and to round up on that part of our exchange, the Wismut for me was really the moment where I understood first that this is where I wanted to gear for my professional career. And it was also an eye and a door opener on so many levels. And when I eventually joined ICC as a junior counsel, again, the fact that I had been a Mootie was one of the most valued elements of my profile. And I did have at the time 2 different master's degrees. I did speak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different languages, which I still do. But that part was really for them the proof that I did understand arbitration to an extent that was extremely relevant, especially for an arbitral institution, as you can imagine. Again, after this experience, it's behind you. Congratulations for having made it. I think that's the most important part. You should be very proud of yourselves. And now, don't just put it in a drawer and forget about it. If any of you, maybe that's not your plan, but if any of you is looking at building a profile and a career in dispute resolution specifically, then that means that you have to focus on going through the contacts that you've made during this Wismut experience, and all sorts of contacts, starting with, your peers, your coaches, your colleagues, and all of the Mooties you met in Vienna. You want to reach out to them. You want to think, of course, about your next steps in your education, and for some of you that might be taking the bar examination. For others, you already maybe are qualified, and it means searching for job opportunities. It might be for some of you trying to find opportunities to also yourself be coaches, because for me that was really part of my training as a lawyer. The fact that after I concluded the VIS as a Mootie, I decided to start coaching, and I did it for 5 years. And that time while I was coaching was extremely valuable to me. I learned a lot of what I am today capable of doing through the coaching. So all of these things, again, will contribute to building your profile, starting from that very important founding moment that the Wismut, to me at least, represents. And I know many people in the business who would tell you exactly the same thing about how the Wismut has contributed to opening doors for them. I will end with this. As African minds, young minds, we are at a time, you guys are at a time that is very fortunate, because there's a lot of attention on our continent, and that's a good thing, right? However, do not run away with just the shiny part, and do actually properly work on building your skills. That's so important. I know that LinkedIn is full of people, including myself, who advertise all of the very shiny and nice conferences and things they do, and it seems so easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. As much as there is attention, there is also competition, less than in other spaces, but there is competition. And at the end of the day, what will distinguish you from others is the quality of your work, is the strength of your skills. And I can never stress enough that you cannot just hope to be able to get opportunities, to get a seat at the table, because being African nowadays will allow you in the room. That is great, because that was not the case before. It would actually keep you outside the room. However, now that you are in the room, to have your seat at the table, show your skills. So work on them, build them. You are at a very critical moment. When you do those internships, show the best of yourself, put in the hours, put in the energy. And you know what? There is something that is not fair, but that is the truth. There is still, unfortunately, the expectation that not much should be expected from you, because you're coming from a background where probably, or the assumption is that your education is less than that of your next colleague who is not coming from Africa. So that also means that, yes, you will have to work harder. Is it fair? No. Is it the truth? Yes. So just have it in mind, do it. Put yourself to it. Work on your skills again, reach out to the people around you and you have amazing, I think, amazing mentors through Africa in the Moot. Reach out to those whom you believe can be of help, but don't expect them to do the things for them. I sometimes have young people reaching out to me, and I encourage people to reach out to me, but they reach out to me and they tell me, oh, well, please take me for an internship, or I want to do, I want to be an arbitrator. Can ICC appoint me? ICC will not appoint you just because you want to be an arbitrator. Let me disclose that to you if you didn't know it. And by the way, before ICC appoints you, even because you want to be an arbitrator and because you might even have the skills, there is a very long list of people who are waiting for ICC to appoint them. So now that you know that reality, you need to think about what will distinguish me from that long list of people who are waiting to be appointed in order to get the work. And by the way, there are many other things you can do in arbitration, but be an arbitrator. So don't overly focus on that. There's plenty of work, and I would actually stress that there is the possibility to work for arbitrators as tribunal secretary, which is one of the best schools you will ever have in order to train. There is the possibility to be, of course, counsel in a team, in a legal team doing arbitration. There are possibilities to intern. There are possibilities to look at careers as experts. There are more and more third-party funding companies that are recruiting lawyers to join their ranks to actually do dispute resolution with them. So there are many, many, many roles that you can play in this business of arbitration and ADR, and that is not necessarily the arbitrator gig. So be careful, don't let yourself attracted by the shiny part of it. Before it's shiny, it's been, a lot of crawling in the mud and trying to get yourself up and get yourself out of the masses and make yourself noticed. And your work, I repeat it, the quality of your work is the best speaker for you, is the best element that can speak to the quality of what you can bring to a team in any capacity in that business. I've spoken more than I should have, but I thought it's always, important and interesting to share a little bit of, that background and my views with you guys. I will maybe let Assunta lead the Q&A. And if you don't yet have questions, I still have a couple of points that I want to make, but I'm sure they will come up in questions. So I have prepared them, but I will let you come with your questions first. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diamana. We could listen on and on. I personally can, and I will allow you to do that. One of the questions I've received is it too late to pivot into arbitration? So also noting that we have a very good mix of individuals in the room. We have students who've done the VIS and they're very excited, but we also have some who've walked down the path of probably being counsel and advocates, and they're thinking about arbitration as now where they want to pivot towards. So from your experience, is it too late for them? And what can they do now, being more advanced in their experience as counsel? Then after your answer, I will, of course, allow anyone else to speak up.
Thank you for that question. No, it's not too late. First of all, it's never too late. But more importantly, as you might have noticed, the older you are in arbitration, the more relevant you would be. So no, absolutely not. And there's a reason for that, right? So I'll come back to that. But what I would say is that for those of you who have been practicing as litigators or as, transactional lawyers and who are now looking at dispute resolution, arbitration, or ADR as an area of interest, first of all, yes, congratulations, you're right. This is actually a very interesting area of practice. And I will come to one point that I briefly touched on before. This is a very lucrative industry. And that truth, I think, is important to be said because, first of all, not enough people dare say it. And there's no shame in saying that. I mean, we are lawyers, yes, but we are also owners of business enterprises for many of us. And that it means that, as a sound business man and woman, you will go for what will be lucrative. Arbitration and ADR can very well be that, right? Now, the question is it for everyone? No. So you, again, need to work for that to become lucrative. And when I say work, how do you get there? If you have already a trajectory, and I meet everyday practitioners who have a long trajectory as lawyers, transactional or litigators again, arbitration at the end of the day, and you've seen that, is a procedure. Does that mean anyone can do it? No, you need to work to learn how to do it. But what it requires first and foremost is good lawyers, good jurists. The question is, are you or not a good lawyer? If your fundamentals, whatever your legal system is, if your fundamentals in the law, in the legal systems in which you were trained and in which you practice are strong, then you will be able to build your skills, your knowledge, your understanding of arbitration without too much of a difficulty. Then, of course, you would tell me, okay, fine, I've done these trainings, I've gone through all the steps, but yet I still don't get the work. Well, arbitration is no different from any other practice area of the law. As lawyers, again, we are, servants of the law, but we are also business women and men, and that means that you need to go and fish for the work, like you would do for any type of business. You need to find, you need to test your market, find your clientele, and pitch for the work, and ultimately win the work. And when you get that work, you need to do it well so that more work would come out of it. And that's I was about to say the ugly truth. There's nothing ugly about that truth. That's just a simple truth. And making anyone think that there's a different way to get that work is a mistake. And unfortunately, I do think that for us as African practitioners, because in the past 3 to 5 years, 3 years, there has been a lot of attention and a lot of voices very vocal about the need to open the gates of the practice of arbitration and ADR to African practitioners. It has created the false assumption that by simply being legally trained and qualified and plus African, you would have an opportunity. No, you still have to work for that opportunity. You still have to, track that work like you would do it for your own litigation practice. The work doesn't just fall on your lap. It's exactly the same. If you're going to be an arbitration counsel, you will have to develop your business. You will have to create contacts. And that's where all of these connections we've spoken about come in very handy and are extremely important, because they allow you to do that business development work. Of course, there is the question of the work that could be, referred to you through institutions or through colleagues as an arbitrator. But arbitrator appointments, and that brings me back to the age, arbitrator appointments are not, and there shouldn't be any form of surprise for that, are not something that you can expect to be doing freshly out of school at the beginning of your career. I am not saying that when you are a junior, you cannot be an arbitrator. What I am saying is just that in order to be able to adjudicate claims, you need to have some experience. That is just what you would expect from a judge. Why would you expect something different from an arbitrator? At the end of the day, this is what the arbitrator does. When you want to say, as a mediator, in order to be able to help parties get closer, be able to find, to move past their conflict and find, common joint resolution to their dispute, you need to have to be in a way seasoned. And that does not again mean age, but you need to have seen enough things in this world, and that might be in your personal life, in your professional life, but you need to have gone around, seen different businesses, seen how the world operates, to be able to bring something that will help these people in a conflictual situation get closer and resolve their dispute. So what I'm saying is that we should not, at least my personal view, let me speak for myself, is that there's no reason why we should reject the idea that receiving an arbitrator appointment is something that goes with having experience. Again, I don't mix experience and age, but I think that it's extremely important to understand that, yes, you should have experience before getting that appointment. And of course, your question is, well, how do I get the experience? Is the chicken and egg situation. How do I get the experience if I never, I'm never given the opportunity? Well, that experience, again, coming back to the fact that the appointment as arbitrator should not be the sole objective of your search. That experience you build at different level. You build when you take on work as an administrative secretary. That is actually the best school, I repeat it. You build by working in institutional arbitration centers like ICC, like others, regional centers. They are very good places to get trained, because the work that they do is the one that will help you understand what an arbitration case is and how does that arbitration go around. That experience you also gain by doing what you've done with the VSMOOT. This is a very good place to first even see and understand what is an arbitration and what is that process and how is it different from what I was taught in law school about the judicial resolution of claims, which we are all taught in our curricula during our legal education. So again, the experience you can gain in very different places. Don't only solely focus on, I want to be appointed as an arbitrator. I want to be a trainee in this big arbitration law firm. There are plenty of practitioners who do arbitration, as sole practitioners every day, counsel, arbitrator, administrative secretaries. Go knock on their door. Ask them whether they would take you on for internships for a start, whether they would go fish for cases and bring them to a team that does that already does arbitration, and do it with them and learn with them how you're supposed to do it. And then you will build your own experience and be able to then repeat yourself what you've learned in that first experience. This is exactly how you gain the experience. And this is ultimately how you will get the work. So what I'm saying is, if you've done something else but arbitration so far, that does not mean you cannot do arbitration. What that means is actually that you've gained experience somewhere else. So that's very valuable. And that means that if you're interested in arbitration, it is time to now build your skills and understanding of the arbitration law and the arbitration different legal systems that are out there, and then see how you can couple your past experience with where you want to go. I hope that helps and that answers the question to some extent.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Diamana. And then we do also have a question in the chat from Fortunate, asking, what advice do you have for one who has not participated in the VIS, but would like to still build a career in arbitration?
That's a very valid and fair question. What I would say is that you need to find a way to get some understanding of the arbitration process, because it is so different basically from what the judicial system is, what you've learned in law school is. You need to find yourself that, and that can be through a master's degree, that can be through trainings that are offered by organizations such as the CIR, that you probably, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, that I'm sure you've heard of. So I would say you definitely want to start by that. The first layer is just build your understanding of what arbitration is. From there, you will move to the next step, which is, okay, I have acquired the basic understanding. Of course, in a day and age where people have specialized degrees in arbitration, the competition is fierce. I will not lie to you. So then how do I go from there to getting myself noticed enough to be selected for an internship, a tribunal secretary work, a counsel team, whatever that is? Well, I would say there are tricks. Speaking languages, different languages, is extremely valuable in arbitration. You would be surprised to see that, at least in the Paris and London market, for a long time, those lawyers who were the most successful in arbitration were either Russian speakers, Arabic speakers, Spanish speakers. Of course, French and English are sort of like the basics that you will find in the market. But because of the particularity of the business of arbitration and the fact that, international arbitration combines different legal cultures and combines in one given case elements from different legal systems, the more diverse your profile is, not so much in terms of your regional origin, but in terms of your skills, language skills. Having several legal systems have been taught in common law and civil law, or in Islamic law and common law, or, so on and so forth. These are elements that really can make your profile very different and allow you to get your foot in the door faster than just waiting in line that somebody notices you. I would also say that specializing in one particular area, so for example, in construction, specializing in finance, specializing in a very specific area of the law, can contribute to singling you out and allowing you to be that rare breed that will be noticed in the market. And also, but more importantly, I would say, while you do that work of building your understanding and knowledge of arbitration, seek opportunities to also write and to speak about what you've learned. The good thing, again, talking about a region, Africa, where a lot is still to be built, is that there's room for us to actually write our history of arbitration. And that's great. That's actually really great, because I can tell you that if you ask most lawyers doing arbitration who are French or British, they will tell you, well, there are, I'm just one of thousands and thousands and thousands of others, right? We have that advantage. We have that advantage that we have a very open field. It doesn't mean that anyone can, make it, but with work, with intent, with commitment, yes, you can do a lot. And that means that if you are really serious about, developing that business, that career in arbitration, look for opportunities to be published. We, for example, at the ICC have the ICC Bulletin, which is published on Jus Mundi, and we're always looking for, contributors, especially when it comes to publishing commentaries of decisions in African jurisdictions relating to arbitration. And I am, for example, leading a project, the Case Law project, in the Bulletin, for which the purpose is to collect case law from the continent and write commentaries. And if any of you is interested to contribute, well, reach out to me. I'm sure that Assunta and Erin can share my email address to you, but these, I'm not saying 100% yes, your piece will be taken, but at least that's one thing that can happen. And already that's huge, because if you write a piece on something that is noticed, that can, that's a thread that you pull, and that can bring the next opportunity. There is a conference happening in your region about arbitration. Well, try to get involved. Try to offer your services to help the organizers in any capacity that you can. That can allow you to be in touch with, practitioners from everywhere in the region. That can allow you to meet the person who will give you that tribunal secretary appointment. And I will stop there. I will finish on that question with this. Like anything that you do, you've studied, that was an investment, right? Be prepared to invest on yourself. And that means also financial investment. Don't expect that you will develop a career in arbitration by sitting in your backyard and never getting on a plane and never going to go and spend some money to meet the people or to train yourself. It's an international business. It means that you need to move yourself out of your jurisdiction to meet those who might be referring work to you. And that brings me back to the first point I was making about, this is a business enterprise. It is a business enterprise. So you want to develop a business. If you want to develop a business, you first invest in order to get return on your investment. So put yourself in that mindset. I think that the biggest enemy of most of the young practitioners I speak to is this illusion that it will happen because precisely they are in this particular moment in time. Sorry, my Outlook is reminding me of the next meeting. They have this illusion that because we are in this particular day and age where diversity is so central in the conversation, that it will allow them to have an opportunity regardless of what effort they provide. That's not true. That's simply not true. I've described to you what I've done for the Moot. I haven't described to you what I've done to come here in my career, but believe me, it is just as difficult. And you need to be ready to actually work very hard, be patient, and also, make yourself noticed. That's how it happens. Luck, it's maybe it is 50% luck, but it's also 50% of you putting yourself in the right place where that luck can come your way. That's what I'm saying when I say be prepared to invest. I hope I'm not discouraging you guys with this. I just like to be honest, and I like this type of forum for that, because they allow me to say a few truths to the younger generations.
Thank you very much, Diamana. I noted you mentioned ugly truths, but for today we'll call them plain truths. This is what is so much happening to us, and I think it's important for the students coming up and we who are in the profession to speak it as is. Now, we do have another question, and after this question, then maybe I can allow you to also wrap up with what you had to present for today, knowing that you're on a clock. So the question is from Winfred, and she says, from what you have seen in practice, do you think that the peculiarities of civil law and common law systems influence the approach to arbitration proceedings and the way in which they are conducted in civil law jurisdictions versus common law jurisdictions?
100% yes. 100% yes. The practice of arbitration is definitely influenced by the background of those practicing arbitration. And if you take a case where the applicable law, for example, is a civil law jurisdiction, and the people deciding the case are from common law jurisdiction, which I would never advise, but it does happen, you will see very odd results. And the simple reason for that, for anyone who has done comparative law, you would understand the concepts, even though there are some similarities, are built on very different rationales, very different. Whether you're talking about formation of contract or breach of contract, It is not the same in civil law and in common law. These steps that exist in any legal system, you don't come to them the same way, you don't undo them the same way. And that means that your appreciation of these steps, if you are a common law lawyer sitting on a case that is based in civil law, will not be the same, and that will influence the decision making. That is on the substance, but it also is true for the procedure. The way you're taught to I was about to say litigate, but that's what we are taught in law school, not to arbitrate. So the way you're taught to litigate a case in common law jurisdictions is very different from the way you're taught in civil law. I'm lucky to have studied in both, and I can tell you that it's extremely different. And we see it, for example, within ICC case law. We see that, for example, those disputes that are under civil law, procedural law, will tend to be shorter, will tend to be more written than oral. And those that are common law influence will tend to be, on the contrary, have lengthier document production phases, for example, have a lengthier also submissions built in a very different way. Also within common law systems, it's not the same if you're talking about the UK or you're talking about the US. Even the writings of the practitioners will be very different, let alone the result of the arbitral tribunal's work, the award. So the short answer is absolutely yes, there is a difference. There is an influence, absolutely.
Thank you for your answer. If anyone in attendance has a question, the opportunity is now so that Diamana can handle your question and also wrap up on what she had prepared for us today. The floor is open. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Fortunate.
Good evening.
I'm sorry to hold you up here, but something came to my mind. While in Vienna, I had a conversation, I think, with Henfield about having the Switzerland of Africa in arbitration. So my question would be, while we are building careers in arbitration, what part can we play in realizing to see that we have better laws for arbitration, so that maybe we can have seats for arbitration and people can choose laws from Africa for arbitration?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking it, Fortunate. So that is what I call the work in progress in the continent, and it might be slow. It actually is not slow. I keep saying people tend to forget where we started from. There is tremendous progress that is done, and there is going to be even more. And I know now, today I'm able to say without a doubt that we will come to a point in time where arbiter seats are selected in Africa without any hesitation. And the reason for that is that you guys are here. And you guys are going to be the practitioners who will be litigating those arbitration cases, who will be drafting the contracts that will lead to those arbitration cases, and who will be in the courts that will decide on those arbitration cases. And what I'm saying by that is that precisely because there is this general awareness now of the importance for African jurisdictions to recenter arbitrations in Africa, and that the premise for that, the necessary step for that is to have a safe environment in the courts. The work is being done by so many African jurisdictions to renew their laws, to train their judges, their judiciary, and train also the bar, because having a strong judiciary in arbitration, if the bar members don't are not skilled in to accompany that will not help you. So what I'm saying is that the landscape of arbitration has already changed very quickly. We are in this moment where it feels like, oh, it's still not okay, people don't dare choose seats in Africa. And at the same time, there are a few success stories. That moment is a necessary one, but it won't last for so long. And I know that seeing at what efforts have been done by so many, legislatures on the continent to revise the laws, make them more modern, make them also more accessible, inform about them, and the work that is done by also institutions like mine, where we go to states and we work hand in hand with them in improving the arbitration infrastructure by providing trainings, by also helping governments understand what is at stake when they put this term or this term in the contract. How does that come into play at the day a dispute arises? All of this contributes to changing the scene and affording or allowing space for more seats to be chosen in Africa. So today, yes, it's still a marginal number of cases where the seats are chosen in Africa, but that will change. Look, the best examples are Dubai and Singapore. When I started practicing arbitration, Dubai was not such a popular seat for arbitrations. People were staying away from it. Singapore was not even on the map. I'm not playing, this is true. In less than a decade, these are some of the top cities that are chosen for arbitration. And they went through those phases where there were decisions made by the judiciary that made everyone panic. Oh my God, if you have an arbitration seated in Dubai, this and this may happen and your award will be. Yes, there is this, anecdotal cases that will make everyone fear to sit the case in that jurisdiction. But then there's all the cases we don't hear of that actually go well. And these will become the norm. And in 10 years from now, I have no doubt, for example, that Kigali will be one of the most chosen arbitral seats in, not just in Africa, in the world. That's I want to meet you in 10 years and have that conversation.
Thank you, Diamana. As they've said, they can reach out and I'm sure they'll hold you to it.
Please do.
Yes.
Please do. I'm slow in responding. Assunta will tell you, but I respond.
Indeed, she definitely does respond. I can confirm that. And she is definitely invested in the growth of the African continent and arbitration in this space. So Diamana, I do know you have a few more minutes to give us, very few, but in your words, your biggest parting shots. What have been the biggest moments, impactful moments of your career that we can learn from?
Wow, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I would say, I don't know if it's yes, it is. I would say that the biggest moment for me as an African practitioner, at least if I'm going to focus on that, was when we opened the doors of the ICC court to African court members. It might sound as a very marginal thing, but it changed things around here. I was in this institution for over 8 years when it happened. And I was seeing all of these cases from Africa going through ICC and, being decided every day by very good professional, excellent ones, but no one from those jurisdictions. And I always had that feeling, and actually I was very vocal about it. It was not just a feeling, that something is wrong here. And we know it. And ICC, for that, I have to say, that's why I stick to that organization, is quite a good place for honesty and being able to do introspection and see what we do wrong and how do we make it differently so that we can improve and continue serving the community the way we do. And so we did that work of internal introspection, and we saw that, okay, we didn't have those African court members for thousands of reasons that are more related to our own system, the way it's built, and our statutory obligations. But we're going to find a way to change that. And that's just what we did. And that's what the former president of the court, Alexis Moore, did in 2018 when he brought in 20 at the time, sorry, it was 18 court members from Africa. And after him, the current president, Claudia Salomon, continued on that work, and they together appointed over 27 court members from the continent. Out of the 195 court members of ICC, you might think, well, that's not so many. That is huge. Again, we tend to forget where we come from, but more importantly, if you bring it in proportion to the volume of cases we have from Africa, this is so much more than the volume of cases we have from that jurisdiction. So of course, not everything is perfect, but that is for me one of the biggest accomplishments, and I'm so proud to have contributed to that.
Thank you so much, Diamana. And now that wraps up the amount of time you have for us. I want to say thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in the chat once again, help me celebrate Diamana Diawara, who is the Africa Director for Arbitration and ADR at the International Court of Arbitration, ICC Paris. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Diamana, thank you so much for your time, for your counsel, and that you're always willing to give us that time.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So as Diamana may be leaving the meeting, I still will hand over to Erin, my very able colleague, who started us off and will definitely have something more for us.
Yes, thank you so much to everybody for being here on the call. Thank you so much to Diamana. I have 3 eyes for you. The first is insightful, the second one is informative, and the third one is inspirational. I think certainly I myself am an arbitration practitioner, but you've re-inspired me too, and I hope that everybody on the call can resonate with that feeling. I'm very sure that they can. And just to everybody on the call, whether involved in the first Moot or Africa in the Moot or not, I officially hereby close the 30th First Moot season for Africa in the Moot's involvement. Don't have a gavel. I think a coffee cup is probably the next appropriate symbol for how the season has gone. I congratulate all of you, and with great excitement on behalf of the Education Committee and on behalf of Africa in the Moot in general, we really look forward to what is to come. We hope that we can build on the excellent advice that Diamana has shared with us today. So thank you very much, and we will see each other soon, I'm sure, as we build Africans in international arbitration.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was really a pleasure to be with you. And congratulations on your accomplishment. Well done. Very proud.
Thank you very much. In fact, oh, that's great. I see people are putting on their cameras. That's
perfect time for a round of applause, quite literally.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.